metal reviews here. Sam and T talking about Soundgarden's newest album, King Animal. This is their first album since 1997, I believe.
I don't even know.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's been a while.
It's been a while!
No one got that because you didn't even sound right.
Sorry. Yeah, so this is their new album. It's coming out the 13th of November, so let's dive into it. Sammy can go.
Hey, shut up. We put this album on and listened to it, and my first thoughts that I gathered about it, just my thoughts, not your thoughts, my thoughts, because you might think differently or think otherwise or whatever, but my first thoughts were like, this kind of has a groove to it. It kind of has this like, I don't know, like a nice bluesy, jazzy groove to it. I'm not saying it's like jazz music, but it just kind of has like a sort of a groove to it, like this sort of southern, like kind of, it has a little pep in its step, I guess you could say.
It's got twang.
Yeah, it has twang, or whatever Keith just said. It just has a little soul to it. And that might just be, well, maybe 50% of it is definitely Chris Cornell's voice, because he has a lot of soul in his voice. It's a very powerful voice. He kind of has that, you know, I don't know, just to associate what I always think of, like, I always remember Lane Staley, how he had a lot of soul in his voice. That's why I always think of Chris Cornell. Like, they just have that kind of power and soul behind their voice, and, you know, all of that good stuff. But, overall, the album, we were listening to it, and, I don't know, I just wasn't paying too much attention to it, like, some parts, but I really did pay attention to a couple songs. I was really listening, and, just from what I heard, it kind of sounded good. It was just like, you know, I would be listening, then like 10 minutes later, I would still think it's the same song, but it turned out to be a different song. And it was like, oh, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of like variety, I guess. I mean, the songs are still good. I'm not saying they're bad or whatever. I'm not saying everything sounds the exact same. Not everything sounded the same. Parts sounded similar, and it just wasn't like, it was all kind of on the same level. Like, I mean, yeah, there was a good song here and there. It's like, wow, that part kind of stood out. That was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool song, this and that. But, you know, it, for the most part, it stayed on the same level, like, the whole way through. But, there wasn't, like, a lot of progression, like, where you might go from, like, something really slow to something, like, extremely rock out. It was just kind of all based around this, like, one level, I feel like. But, it did all have a lot of groove to it, and I definitely love Chris Cornell's voice. He's one of my favorite singers. Overall, I think it was a good album. I mean, Soundgarden fans, they must be, like, I mean, I know, like, you know, those old dudes that are into Alice in Chains and, Stone Temple Pilots and Soundgarden stuff, music like that, they're probably pumped, like, yeah, Soundgarden's putting out another album. Could be happy about that, and I was kind of thrilled about it. I'm like, yeah, Soundgarden, that must be pretty cool, even though they were dicks a couple years ago, and there's this one show that they had, it was like them and one other band, and tickets were like $70 or $80.
Going to again.
They are? Hopefully their tickets won't be outrageous, because it'd be kind of cool to see them. But, I mean, just overall, this is a pretty slamming album. It's kind of, you know, one of those sort of good rock albums. I'm not saying, like, it slammed me up against the wall and gave me a handy J, but, like, overall, it's a pretty good rocking album. Like, you know, you're just kind of sitting back and you listen to it and it sounds good. It's nothing like, if you really pay attention to it, and if you really want to get critical, you can say, like, oh, yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of variety, I guess. But, you know, overall, it's just a good rockin' album.
I agree. Review done. Just kidding. Soundgarden's return here is a very good album. It's a very lengthy album. And I mean, it has a good amount of tracks to it as well. And I must add something.
I like length.
Ha! I must say that the album art for this album is beautiful. Just throwing it out there. The production on this album is top notch. I mean, that should just be kind of expected for a band as big as Soundgarden, with such a big label. It's very top notch. Everything just sounds really well. Everything really works well with everything. I think the moments that make this album shine are, to me, this is all just personal opinion, but there's moments where this album is so mellow and so slow and very, like Soundgarden's past when they wrote something like, just take Black Hole Sun for example. It's very slow, it's very dark, very just mellow, you're just, you're down the dumps type feeling, that's what makes this album shine, is those songs to me. I forget names, but I love those songs, and just the melody and just the beautifulness of those songs are really, really great. And I like that Soundgarden wrote more songs like that. The album starts off with the single Been Far Too Long. I believe that's what it's called. That's a pretty rockin' track, and it's been far too long since a new Soundgarden album. Ha! I think that's why they wrote that. I don't know. But that's a pretty rockin' track. Like Sam said, there's a lot of groove in this album. This album's very upbeat, very energetic. And like Sam was like alluding to and saying, this album just kind of feels it like blends a little bit. Maybe upon more listens, they'll become more distinct. That happens with some albums. You listen to it the first few times, and it's just it all blends together, or not all of it. Just some tracks are like, this one kind of sounded like the one before it, but then you listen to it more and more and more, then they become more distinct. I feel that is something that might happen with this album. So I'm definitely going to give it more listens. Chris Cornell is a fantastic vocalist, one of the greats, and definitely one of the best when it comes to grunge. Probably second best to Lance Staley, if you ask me. But he sounds as good as ever. I mean, Chris Cornell always sounds good. The single that they put out for that one movie, what's that called? It came out recently, like over the summer. It was really popular.
I know what you're talking about. I just forget.
I forget. But the single they put out over the summer, he sounded really impressive. And that is one of my favorite Soundgarden songs, in all honesty. And he sounds just as good on this. And he's sounded good. Soundgarden's past, his solo efforts, all that stuff. And he has a very just powerful, just mind-blowing voice. That just... he's got like the voice of an angel in a dude form. But that was probably retarded. But he sounds well. Musically, this is really good. The groove, the melody, everything just sounds awesome. I like the drums on this album as well. I think they're very just nice. But I think just having a couple songs blending together is just kind of the downfall of this, although I'm not saying every song sounds like blends together. But this album really has some very different moments that just really make it a shining star, and I really enjoyed it. So is Soundgarden's return really, really good?
It's good. It's not really, really good. I mean, it's cool that they're back, and it's a good album, but, like, it's not impressive as their older stuff. I mean, I think the hype maybe had something to do with it, like Soundgarden's returning, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. And then they put out a good album, and it's just, not exactly what you think it is, but it's still a worthy listen.
It might be a grower as well. So definitely check it out if you're a fan of Soundgarden and just rock music and stuff. So give it a shot. What would you give it?
As of right now, I mean, just like a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. So Soundgarden's King Animals. Check it out. Weekly Metal Views. Thank you for subscribing.